Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. We do not get together often civically here with the Indianapolis Colts very often, but when we do, I always reach to this guy. It is nice to chat with him during the holiday season. He's one of my favorite writers in America and a guy that's been in a few places and done a few things. He's kind of famous for the Deflategate thing, and you could Google him on that. He is B. Kravitz out on Twitter. He looks like a hell of a goalkeeper in some sort of old-school Winnipeg Jetsy sort of weird racers throwback. He is Bob Kravitz, longtime Indy Star columnist, bon vivant, and he's at WTHR.com now, doing the television, web, writing, new media thing. And, dude, you and I have gotten together many, many times to talk about Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or Tony Dungy or Brandon Stokely or Jimmy Irsay or any number of wild things. But, boy, this is the first time your team stinks in a long, long, long time, right?
I would bet this is the first time in a couple of decades where Baltimore is thinking, I'm glad you took the Colts.
You know, we've never looked back here. You know, I buried the hatchet on that a number of years ago. I thought you guys did such an incredible job with the Super Bowl, and what has grown from that, and I wrote this from the heart, Bob. You know I did. I mean, the week I was out there, seeing that community blossom in that way, and our community coming back and being made whole, I just said, you know what, after 28 years, whatever the hell it had been at that point, I just had decided I'd had enough. And, you know, Jim Irsay and the Pete Wards and obviously Chuck Pagano's role in my life and our first phone call, my wife had cancer and my relationship, and now we look like in 2 weeks it's going to be the end of the Chuck Pagano era, man. I mean, it's been something to sort of watch this Andrew Luck, what happens when your quarterback is great but can't play, and that's a whole new universe for the NFL and $30 million quarterbacks, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, look, you know, Andrew Luck has played 22 games in the last 3 years, and you know, look, I'm not going to sit here, and as much as I like Chuck, I'm not going to sit here and say he's a great coach. I think he's a dime a dozen coach. I think he's a typical coach in the sense that when he's got a franchise quarterback, he's very good. And when he doesn't, he's very bad. And when you've had Andrew Luck for 22 out of the, you know, possible 40 out of the 48 games in the last 3 years, you're going to go 8-8, 8-8, and now 3 and whatever. So, you know, I mean, that's the bottom line on Chuck Pagano. Like, you know, I like him very much personally. We both do. He's a prince of a guy. But I think it's time for a change around here. He knows that I believe that. I think everybody believes that. And I think Chuck has come fully to terms with the fact that he won't be back next year.
Well, I mean, it's what Jim Irsay believes, right? And Jim Irsay tries to guide the thing sort of in some woo-woo spiritual way as to what should be, right? I mean, I know he's very zen, and he and I have had some deep conversations, and I sort of like my time with Jim Irsay. I think an hour spent with Jim Irsay is a good hour spent in my life at this point in my life. At least that's been my experience. So I don't have this visceral hatred, you know, that I once, as you know, Bob, held very, it was hard for me to walk through the mall there 20 years ago, like on behalf of my father, you know what I mean? Like I had a very, very, all of that going on. And then I saw the grave getting pissed on, and I came out there and I got to know some people, and Stephanie Paul worked there, and Manning seemed like a gem of a guy, and, you know, but the hard part was losing, right? Like that 06 loss, dude. My wife has video, early like video camera video, right, of me blubbering, literally blubbering over the Inner Harbor after losing that horrific 7 field goal game that we still have Civic Night. You know, if we didn't ever win a championship after that, that would have been a really, if the Cundiff thing would have happened and then somehow we didn't like win that next year, I mean, it would be one of those Buckner-y, you know, awful things for us. But, you know, but both of our communities have been made whole. You know, I mean, I'm writing about, you know, the past, the present, and the future. Boy, the present's not real good in Indianapolis right now after all of that prosperity. It's really hard to not have prosperity.
Well, people have really been spoiled around here. You know, the Colts have missed the playoffs let's see, 2001 they missed it. 2011, obviously, they missed it because Peyton was gone. So basically, since 2000, after 2001, so 2002 on to the modern day, they missed the playoffs 2 times in, 16, 17 years. So we have been extraordinarily fortunate around here, and I would dare say spoiled with the level of success that the Colts have had. And I get emails from people saying, I'm giving up on the Colts. They can have my season ticket. I'm like, try being a Browns fan. Try being a fan of one of these teams like the Buffalo Bills who play in miserable weather and haven't made the playoffs in 17 years. Those are fans, man. People in Indy, they complain when they open the roof and it's 10 degrees too warm or 10 degrees too cold. So we've had it good around here, and look, if it's going to take a couple of down years to get this thing right, and look, these next couple of weeks, these next couple of weeks are enormously important in the history of the Colts, because these next couple of weeks, Andrew Luck is going to start a throwing regimen, and if he doesn't feel any pain, then they can proceed as per usual. But if he feels pain, he's going to have another surgery, and then that throws everything off kilter. And then you have to start to wonder about his future and the immediate future of the Indianapolis Colts.
Bob, we're feeling that on the baseball side, right? I know what a baseball fan you are, and you covered baseball for a long time, Colorado, and all that background that you have, and the Machado things going on. And man, Angelos has never ever been good at this, right? And then there is the Ravens, who've never had to sort of do it, and Bisciotti's never chosen a football guy. Ozzie came off the boat, and he's had Ozzie forever, and Ozzie's had all of his lieutenants forever. Some, like Kukinis, went to the Browns and came back. Harbaugh's been here forever. That was Steve's gut, visceral, I want a Midwestern, God-fearing football family, ate football for breakfast every morning of his life with his father and his brother and all of that. Special teams coach, guy, that's going to have something to prove. And it's all worked out. And, Jim touched goal with Polian, with Dungy, with Manning. Boy, you had a lot of good things to write about, but I'll tell you this, and examining the ghost of Baltimore football past is your ghost as well out there in Indianapolis. And when that team rolled out there in 1984 with that drunk idiot owner who just squatted down in the middle of the Midwest and rolled out 1-15 teams and goofy draft picks and Jeff George and things that didn't work out, but then the March of Brodus, Saragusa, Harbaugh sort of miracle happened, and this whole renaissance of Jim taking over happened, and the place was well run for a long time, and I don't think it's not well run now. I don't think there's anything wrong with a Chuck Pagano with good football players and a healthy Andrew Luck. He would still be employed, and the team would be 10-6, and we'd be fighting over a wild card game or something like that right now. But that's not the case, and that's not the way history is going to have it. But to your point, this is really all about Jim Irsay right now, right? Like this important and all these tectonic plates. This is really about Jim getting his chakras in line the next couple of weeks.
Oh, absolutely. Jim is Jim and Chris Ballard. To me, this is the most important. Not to overstate things, but this is the most important offseason that Chris Ballard will ever have, I believe. And even though it's just his second year, because they got to pick a coach, they got to pick the right person. They've got to do well in the draft. You would not expect that they're going to often have the third or even the second pick in the draft. You've got the Andrew Luck situation, which is very fluid at this point, and they're going to have the third highest amount of money in free agency to spend, roughly $87 to $90 million available to spend in free agency, and knowing Jim Irsay, he's going to spend it. So, say what you want about Jim. He's a little different. He's a lot different. But he is willing to spend to win, and he always has been, and I don't think that's going to change. So these next couple of months, draft, free agency, Luck, picking coaches, I don't think that Chris Ballard's going to have a bigger challenge or a more important challenge any time in his tenure as the Colts general manager.
And look, man, we could talk about what's going on the field and who's going to be running around and Jacoby, whatever his name is.
Who cares?
You know, all of that stuff, right? But the Ravens better not lose this game. Like, the Ravens better not lose this game and not make the playoffs because of that on the eve of Christmas with the Ragamuffins coming in and the way they looked last week. And certainly Cincinnati and the way they looked last week is the last game. So, you know, I do want to talk to you. And you were one of the first people I reached to because I have so much respect for your opinion through all this and what you've been through as a journalist. And we'll talk about Brady and Pittsburgh and the catch and all of that in a minute. But, dude, we got empty seats here. And part of this whole ghost of Baltimore football past is that horseshoe going out there and being just as crappy for a decade as it ever was here, just as awful on the field for the most part as it was here. And then I woke up in Cleveland, Bob, on Sunday and Monday this week, walking 6 blocks from the Marriott down there to see an 0-13 football team and wondering how anyone in Berea or, Richland Heights or Parma would want to wake up on a Sunday when it's 24 degrees and drive down and watch an 0-13. And seeing the malaise of the sport in general, the Buccaneers crowd, it's just, we're going to have 20,000 empty seats here, and we've had 22 years of nothing but spoiled success. But the knee and Ray Rice and the home team and all of that thing, and I remember the empty seats. It cuts me in the heart, Bob, after Burt Jones and what happened from Ghost to the Post, where I was with my dad on Christmas Eve in 1977 for that game. I was a 9-year-old boy to 6 years later not having a team anymore, right? And you got friends in St. Louis. We got friends in San Diego. We know people in Oakland, all of that. Boy, you start to wonder, these are the chinks in the armor and the cracks, and we're feeling it here, and the Ravens are feeling it, and it's going to be weird for you, Bob, to see so many empty seats for an 8-6 Baltimore Ravens football team where Jacoby Brissett's going to be able to operate the offense in peace on Saturday.
Yeah, it really will. I've always thought of Baltimore, and I still think of Baltimore, and always will think of Baltimore as a phenomenal football town. But it's a really weird time in the history of the National Football League. I think, people are starting to feel sort of a visceral guilt about watching football because of the violence and what it causes, CTE and everything else. I think taking a knee, regardless of your political stance, and mine, I tend to be more of a liberal who feels like let them do what they want to do. This is why our men and women fight for us, so we have these freedoms to dissent as we see fit. You had the Ray Rice situation, the Kaepernick situation. I think leave some people cold. I know Steve Bisciotti was thinking about Kaepernick for a little while. You know more about that than I do. But yeah, it's been a tough time for the NFL. I don't necessarily think, though, it's a tipping point. I think this is something of an aberration. I still think the product is very good, as we saw with some of the games this past weekend, including Pittsburgh and New England. When you're talking about two elite teams, the product is still phenomenal, even if the officials can't quite get out of their own way.
Bob Kravitz is our friend from Indianapolis. He's at B Kravitz. That's Kravitz. He's at WTHR.com. He's the columnist and bon vivant there as well. You can follow our journey out at the Box Hill Pizzeria here for the holidays. Now, listen, it's not too late. Go to BoxHillPizzeria.com right now. You can ship the best crab cakes in Harford County. You don't have to come in from Indianapolis. You ship them out there now, BoxHillPizzeria.com. Also, want to say thanks to our friends at Freedmont Mortgage and Carl Delmont, owner of the Harrisburg Heat. Buying, selling, or refinancing, don't make a 30-year mistake by choosing the wrong lender. Get out and see our friends at Freedmont.com. Bob's coming in for all things Colts, and this thing's going to be fractured. There's going to be a coaching search and all of that. Is Jim Irsay going to get this right, Bob? Do you feel like you're in good hands as a fan? I mean, I think part of this for the Ravens and figuring out their fans in the stands and all the ghosts I've been writing about and where they are is I do think Steve Bisciotti's a good owner. I do think he cares a lot. I do think he's a good decision maker in many, many ways and has proven that throughout his life. I don't think that about the baseball owner here. I guess Irsay's a little bit of a mixed bag, right? And I guess with his off-the-field transgressions and his sort of cocoonish behavior, because I know you've been on better terms with him than you go up and down over 20 or 30 years of a relationship.
Sure.
But where are we with Jim? Where's Jim in 2018 not giving tickets away on Twitter or whatever?
I think that Jim needs to take a step back behind the curtain like he did during the Bill Polian era. I think he's a good owner, but I think that he's a better owner when he lets the Bill Polians or the Chris Ballards of the world really run the show. And we'll have a really good idea of who's running the thing based on their selection for a new coach, i.e., if they go with Dave Taub for the special teams coach at Kansas City.
Great guy, by the way. I got to know him a little bit. Awesome dude.
Yeah, okay. Well, then I would say, well, that's a Chris Ballard selection. If they go for a big-name home run pick, that would suggest to me that Jim Irsay is getting involved because Jim wants a home run, top of the fold of the front page, top of the internet page, whatever. He wants a home run. He wants a splash. So I think at this point in his life that Jim needs to take a step back behind the curtain, stay involved as he always has, but don't meddle and let Chris Ballard run this thing because I think Chris Ballard, when he introduced Chris Ballard, he said, in typical Jim Irsay overstatement, said he's the greatest GM candidate of the 21st century. Well, let him run it. Let him make the call on this new head coach.
Bob, last thing for you on the, you're so tied in with Tom Brady and Deflategate and all that, and yet here we go again, and he sits at the top of the game, and here's Roethlisberger, and here's this incredible football game that we don't know what a catch is and what a catch is not at this point. But, as much as we pee on the game, and there's, Rodgers gets hurt, and we've got body bag games and quarterbacks and CTE and all that stuff. Brady and Roethlisberger, looks like that's on the docket again at some point late into an evening next month on a Sunday afternoon. It feels like that collision course. And the NFC, there's Drew Brees kicking around. Can Nick Foles do it? Who's Case Keenum? How about this Rams team? The wild card teams aren't even really bad there as well. It's going to be a nice little tournament that we have tidied up here for football viewers on the cold days of January. Hey, the Ravens are going to be playing in Kansas City or Jacksonville if this thing works out in 2 weeks.
Right. And I really like the Ravens' chances. I saw a stat, since the bye week, they've averaged 31 points a game. So, if the Ravens, I think that's correct, the Ravens can score, they are tough. They're going to be really tough out. And we know from the past that they're the one team who can go into Foxborough and beat New England. So, I realize that they're going to have the tough road to the Super Bowl, but as you mentioned, 2006, the Colts had a home game against Kansas City. Then they had to go out to Baltimore, and that was a brutal game. And then, of course, they got home and beat the Patriots. But I would not discount Baltimore. It certainly looks like Pittsburgh and New England are on a collision course, but I would not rule the Ravens out at this point. And Jacksonville, I don't know who this Blake Bortles guy is, but he's not playing football the way Blake Bortles plays football. I think there's been some, body snatching going on because he's playing really, really well.
I think they did the old McCartney switcheroo over in London.
Yeah,
we were kicking our ass.
You're right. I think that's exactly it. So it's going to be a fascinating postseason.
There's a little Beatles reference for you and for Jim Irsay. Hey, I said last question, but I have a bonus round because when I have you on, it's sort of like Zeppelin doing Stairway to Heaven. I need to get an encore. I know of your relationship with Peyton Manning, and, I sort of know him by the by through Stokely and, know of his great intellect and, that he really is at heart this sort of interesting, all-shucks, nerdish kind of fascinating guy. What is he going to do You know what I mean? It's fascinating to me that, like, Tony Romo has become John Madden, like, in 13 weeks, or 14 weeks, whatever it's been. And I thought Manning may do that John Gruden routine or whatever, but I am fascinated to know what he is going to go run other than, bad corporate chain pizza.
Well, I honestly think he wants to get into ownership. I think he wants to be a team president. The Colts last offseason put the full court press on Peyton to come back as a team president. He did not feel that he was ready at the time. That's not to say he doesn't feel that he's ready now. So, I think there are a lot of options out there. Certainly the Carolina Panthers are in a state of flux. I would not rule out the Indianapolis Colts. I think he's more interested in getting back in the game as opposed to calling the game. I think he'd be a terrific TV analyst, but I think he wants some skin in the game. And I think that's the way he's going to end up going. But Tony Dungy told him, look, you got the rest of your life to figure out what you want to do. Don't rush it. And for 1 year, he was carpool dad, and he rather enjoyed it. And, did his ads and played lots of golf with Stokely and stuff like that. But I think the time is coming where he's going to decide that he wants back in, and I think it's going to be in a management/ownership type of situation.
I asked Stokely if he was going to go take a job with him. He's like, heck no, I'm just going to come in there and just put my feet up on the desk. He's like, I'm not going to work.
Oh, that's all Stokely did when he played for him. So,
It is fascinating, though, like how the Ozzie Newsomes, right, and the John Elways, and now what Lynch is trying to do, and what Marino literally took that gig and stayed about a weekend, right, and said, no, man, this Shula thing's not for me, right?
There's work involved here? Hell no.
But it is fascinating, these decorated guys that, like, Michael Jordan's always sort of wanted a little bit more of a piece and and all that thing, and other guys just say, dude, golf's good with me, man. I like that circuit. It's good.
Yeah, if that was me, I'd be playing 36 all day and drinking beer at the end on the 37th hole. But no, I think Peyton is such a competitor. I don't think he could get his competitive juices flowing as a Tony Romo. I think he needs skin in the game. There needs to be a winner. There needs to be a loser. So I honestly think that's the route he's going. And if he ends up in Indy, it wouldn't shock me in the least. Sort
of like your post 40 years of age hockey career. You have to have a little taste of the action, right?
Yeah, well, I hung him up, man. It's time. It just hurts too much. I'm too old.
I got a great chiropractor. Dr. Steve will hook you up. He's playing rugby at, post 50. So I hear you. Hey, man, happy holidays to you. Always great to visit with you. We don't play you guys often, but I'll darken your doorstep. Maybe stop by and see us in Minneapolis in a couple weeks, all right?
Sounds good.
We'll talk about what it fixes the world. Bob Kravitz joins us. B. Kravitz at WTHR.com, columnist and bon vivant out there covering all things Colts, and he's got a busy couple of weeks ahead with the imminent changes going on with the horseshoe. I've written about the ghost of Baltimore football past, which includes those horseshoes stolen from us in the Mayflower vans in 1984, as well as the present and future at WNST.net. I hope you read it, take it to heart. Get mad, get angry, yell at me, throw me nasty tweets and emails, and tell me how I suck. It's fine. I've heard it all before. The BuyAToyota.com audio vault is there 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. Download, listen when you want, where you want, how you want. It is the BuyAToyota.com audio vault. Planet Fitness sponsors our morning newspaper. 7 a.m., it hits your email inbox digitally. It's $10 a month to join Planet Fitness, and based on the eggnog I've had lately and the cookies and the ham and the kielbasa and sauerkraut and the casseroles and the cookies and the cakes they make me eat. Planet Fitness, $10 a month, no commitment, 2018. It is there for you to get you in shape. There's one right around the corner from you. Dennis is here on Thursday, 3 to 5. It's the SSV on WNST. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard, where we promise to get you that Manny Machado trade the nanosecond it happens. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford, where they are wishing you a happy and safe and awesome holiday weekend here. Merry Christmas to everybody out there celebrating. We'll be celebrating with some football on Saturday with the Colts and the Ravens. We'll be around for that. Luke's on the backfields in Owings Mills. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live right here on our Facebook Live, wearing my ho-ho purple Santa hat, as well as on our YouTube WNSTV channel. Nasty at WNST.net for praise only. It is the holiday season. No criticism. Well, whatever you want to write. Nasty at WNST.net. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.